In this lesson, we are going to create one more project that is going to be a chatbot. So this is going to be a backend project because chatbots are working in a way that you're writing some script that is running on your server, and you're using the API key that is allowing you to connect to the Telegram server. So your script can get updates from the Telegram server. When the new messages come, you can trigger new messages on behalf of your chatbot with interface. And basically, this is a separate application. So we wrote our contract, we deployed it, and this is like a backend of our DApp, decentralized application. Then we created a web interface, so anybody on the web can actually access it and interact with it. And then we created a TVA, so we adapted the web application to be actually embedded into Telegram. And one more thing we want to do is we want to write a script that is going to control and program this conversational interface that person can be offered some keyboard, answer some question, and then trigger certain actions. And of course, interact with Tone, because we are building interface for our contract that is on blockchain. So we start a new project. I make directory, and I'm going to call it just first contract bot UI, TG bot, let's put it that way. I'm getting into this repository, and now I'm going to create a yarn init. Obviously, this is going to be a project. We need the package manager. And now we are going to install a few libraries. We want to keep working with TypeScript. So the first thing we're going to do is yarn add TypeScript. We want to install TypeScript for Node. We want to install types for Node. And then we will install the SVC core that's used to compile TypeScript into JavaScript. And we will need to create a new file here. One second, it's the wrong project, this. We will create a new file that is called test-config.json. Contents of this file will be as following. So what do we got here? We got here the configuration for the transpiler of TypeScript, and then we have pretty much standard configuration for compiler. But this project is empty, so we need to install a new SDK that is actually helping us to interact with the chatbot API. So this SDK that I would suggest is called Telegraph, yarn add Telegraph. And while it's installing, let me go back to browser, and I'm going to show you just a bit of website with documentation. So it's quite easy to start with, and it's quite handful when you want to create even complex chatbots. So let's see if it's already installed. Yes, we got Telegraph installed, and let's see here. We are going to create folder src, and inside of the src folder, we'll create index.ts. We will immediately create a script, so we could actually run our code from command line. So the script is going to use TS node to actually run this index file that we are going to program in. All right, so let's go to the example here. So of course, this is not TypeScript example of API, but we got some code prepared. So we have to first import the Telegraph in a TypeScript way. Next thing we need to do is, well, we need to initiate the actual bot instance. So we are actually creating the instance of Telegraph. And the first thing it will accept is the token. You've already seen this token when we were actually working with the BotFather API. So let me go back to the BotFather chatbot, and I will see what is my HTTP API key. It is a token. Oh, it's called a token here. Okay. So this token, we're going to copy and we're going to use it to initiate the bot instance here locally. But there's a good practice that when you develop chatbots, you should actually keep 2 instances of those. One would be your testing, and second would be your production. So what we want to do is we want to separate those tokens, so we're going to bring it out into the env variable. So we're going to create a new file here called .env to keep track that this file is never committed into your repository. We'll call it tg bot token. Great. So the library that is going to help us to interact with these variables is called .env, yarn add .env. So once installed, we can actually access it here with process env tg bot token. But we need to first configure this .env and import it. So let's do it in the very beginning. So we import .env from .env that we just installed. And important thing is to run the .env config function as soon as possible in your project. So an important thing is that this variable is possibly undefined, but we know that we actually define it here in env. So we are going to say that it's going to be there for sure. And it will fail if it's not there, so it will not initiate the instance of Telegraph. Cool. So now let's see how our sample code would look like once we want to actually start in bot interaction. So as you can see, this bot instance, Telegraph instance, gives us a method start. So it will be triggered when you first encounter your chatbot. As you remember, when we just opened the chatbot, we clicked start. So this is going to be the first message from your user. So once you run the first message, you want to reply with welcome to our counter app, and you actually attach a keyboard. We're going to see how this keyboard is going to look like, but Telegram chatbots are allowing you to create keyboard which is replacing the original keyboard that you see when you type message. It can also replace, it can make the inline keyboards that are like right under message. And here we are going to use just a simple keyboard. We are going to learn also about the inline keyboards. But here we will create 3 rows, so 3 buttons. And they will say basically increment by 5, request deposit of 1 ton. We will say rather deposit 1 ton, because here it's not going to request transactions as there is no session. So in the web, once you authorize the application to request transactions from you, then you can actually then just click and they will request the transaction from your app. But here you will have to explicitly scan the QR code or click buttons from the Telegram. So it would be direct transaction link, because there is no basically a session that you could keep in the chatbot. At least it's not as safe, because of course you could keep a session on backend, but it's not the way it should be done, because then it's a security vulnerability. So here we'll say withdraw 0.7 ton. Great. So let's see what else we have here. So we got a few functions. For example, bot hears. That means that when the bot gets the message that is looking like this. So here we have increment by 5, increment by 5. So we could just do, for example, ctx reply increment by 5. And here again, we could do something like ctx reply deposited 1 ton. And here we could go with ctx reply withdrew 0.7 ton. But this is just a sample, so we could see that it actually works. So what we are doing next, we are actually going with the script yarn start. And we see we're missing index.tsc. Okay, it was a mistake here. And let's run it again. We forgot to run one important function that is called bot launch. This function is going to actually start your bot. And we need to have a few more lines of code that would actually make sure that we are exiting the bot properly. So we're stopping it. So now we're all set. We do yarn start. And we are actually now seeing our bot is working. But the important thing is to open the actual app. And here in the app, we are going to our bot and click start again. As you can see, we got 3 buttons that are showing the text that we wanted. So we click increment by, we get reply. We click deposit 1 ton, deposit 1 ton. Withdrew 0.7 ton, so it works as expected. And as you can see, we also are able to open our counter app as a web app. So what do we want to do to actually make this increment by 5 action work? So let's get back to one of the first lessons that we had on the programming. We were creating a deploy script. And as you remember, we were composing a link that could be scanned with QR code as a QR code, and it would go into the wallet and you could sign a transaction to deploy the contract. So we could do the same thing now. So once your user actually gets the message that was that is asking to increment by 5, you can compose a link that will redirect him directly into the Ton Hub and he will pay. So what you can do now here is that we are going to install one more library again. But first, let's install even libraries that are actually required to work with Ton. So we're going to stop it. Yarn add Ton core. We will need Ton core to compose the message. Ton crypto. These 2 libraries we really need. And to actually form the link, we will need libraries QS and types QS. So we installed those libraries. And now we are going to actually use some code that we got from the first lessons of composing this link. So we are going to make sure that our contract address is proper here. You remember here in the front-end project, we were creating a hook that was actually attaching to a certain contract address. So let's take it. And so what are we doing here? We need to import the address construct. So as you can see here, we're not going to do anything with mainnet here, so it's only testnet. So we are parsing the address object, address class out of the certain address. Then we transform it to string. Actually, we could just do it directly. I'm not sure why my idea was like this. We could just do it directly here because we need a string, obviously. And then let's recompose it. So we are going to cut this one out. You can find the ready code in the attachment link. Yes, so this part we can just remove. Let's make it cleaner. It always paid back to make your code cleaner. So here we have we can even do like this. Const smart contract address. Great. So we put smart contract address here into the link. So we transfer to the smart contract address. And actually, you could even do one more improvement, just like we did with the environmental variable for the token. We can actually do smart contract address, because probably in production you will also have a contract on mainnet. Smart contract address. And here we don't need address object anymore. So we also need to import the Ton core. And here we go with process and smart contract address. Awesome. And here we need to form a message body. What is this message body that we need? Message body is going to be begin cell, because you need to use builder, because you are going to put the message body as a cell transform into the string representation. But what do we put in this message body? As you remember, we were creating the contract and we were creating a wrapper for it. Here, contracts. Here we have wrappers. Wrapper. So we are going to the send increment function. And in send increment function, we can actually just copy this message body. So we know it has to have the integer showing that we want to increment and the integer that's shown by how much we want to increment. So I'm copying that and I'm heading back to my bot project. And here I will just copy it like this. So, but we don't have increment by, we know it's 5, right? So you can make more complex when you would ask the person on how, like, what is the amount you want to increase it by. So we are just putting 5 because we have it hard-coded for now, but you could play around with it quite well. So we need to import QS from QS. Great. So we import everything, then we stringify this object. So we say increment counter by 5. There's just a message attached to the, just a text attached to the message. And then here we say that we want to put 005 just as an amount to actually pay the transaction fees and stuff. And then we use this parameter fee. Let me bring you to the TonHub developers documentation, as the link we are using is going to be for TonHub only, but you could play around with TonHub developers documentation. You will play around with TonKeeper, deep link, for example. Yes, in their documentation, you could also just figure out what is the structure of the URL that you could use to actually provide some values. And parameter bean everywhere is used to actually pass the message body once you want to send a message with certain parameters. So this is exactly what we do here. We create a link for payment for TonHub. So one more thing we need to do is we need to reply to the bot, to the user. So user sent us this message with help of our keyboard. We provided him here on the start. And then we send the, like, user is sending us increment by 5, and we need to reply with something. So the user would know what he can do, and we have to provide this link somehow. We could simply send the link, but we want to make it very user-friendly. So this is why we're going to reply with a message when we say to increment counter by 5, please sign a transaction. And then we do double dots, then we create some extra parameter. And then there's such a thing as a reply markup. Reply markup has to be either inline keyboard markup or reply keyboard markup or reply keyboard remove. Like there is multiple ways, but here we want to use the inline keyboard. Last time we used the keyboard, normal keyboard, just like it is in the same place where it is under the input line. And now we are going to actually create an inline keyboard. So it has a few parameters. It has parameter text, sign transaction, and then there's parameter URL. So we are going to provide parameter URL with this link. One thing I didn't mention before, but you should remember here that if we want to send a certain cell as a link, let's say, like together with some string or some link, we want to actually pack it into the base 64, like this cell of the message body. All right, so this is looking like it's gonna work. So I'm going to start, yarn start. Nothing is failing here. Let me get back to my phone. And now we are actually opening the keyboard that is provided by the start command, and we click increment by 5. And as you can see, we received a message that says, to increment counter by 5, please sign a transaction. We click sign a transaction, and it is going to redirect us into the Tone Hub. So the transaction is sent. And let's get back to the chatbot. How do we check it now that the transaction actually affected the state of our contract? As you can see, we have the counter value equal to 15 now. It was actually 10 in the previous steps. So we can see that we are able to construct a certain user flow just with chatbot that would actually interact with our blockchain from the backend. But we would, because we don't have any credentials of this user on the backend, we're actually providing him with the link, so he would use his wallet to pay it. I hope it doesn't get you confused, because as a developer, you should always think of the usability for your user. And this is one of the things that could significantly improve it. So using the web app inside of Telegram web app, along with an interesting, cool chat conversation with your users, because this is the first step. The first step, they send you a message there, and you could kind of chat with them automatically. This is what is enabling you to create stunning projects to actually bring a lot of value to your users. So let's do a few more things here in this code. So we'll finish with the deposit tone and withdraw tone, and then we'll adjust a little bit the front-end app, and then we'll go through other possibilities that are there for interacting of the web app and the chatbot. So what we are doing here is constructing a similar link. You could optimize this code, of course, just bring this out into a function or something. So we are going to put 2 for the deposit. We didn't need anything else. Let's double check on that. Main wrapper, send deposit. We just needed to put the comment, because without deposit comment, we were not accepting the money on our contract. So we are just putting this one integer equal to 2, 32 bits. And here we say it is going to be deposit 1 ton, and we would actually request to provide a payment of 1 ton. It doesn't have to be a string. So we are requesting user to send 1 whole ton into the contract with the message body that says that it is deposit. So we type here to deposit 1 ton, please sign a transaction. And then we don't need this reply. So it's very simple. We form a message body, we form a link, text for the link, setting the amount, 1 ton, because it's a deposit of 1 ton. Put the body into a string, and we reply with a keyboard in a link. And one more thing we need to do here is very similar. Just copying it from here, replacing it here. Let's get back to the wrapper. For the withdrawal, we need to provide the amount that we want to withdraw. So here, we would say store coins, and we would say to nano 0.7. Very simple. Just like we did here, store coins, the amount, and we wanted to do 0.7, so it is just like we wanted. Here we say it is going to be withdraw 0.7 ton. And the amount would be, here we need to just put enough amount to pay the gas fees, because we are going to actually get money. So message body, we put into a string to withdraw 0.7 ton, please sign a transaction. Awesome. Just like that. So let me restart my bot, and I'm going to get back to the application, get back to the Telegram, and let me open the keyboard again. So if I do deposit 1 ton, it says to me, deposit 1 ton, please sign a transaction. I'm opening this one here, it's asking me for 1 ton. The message says it's for depositing 1 ton, so it's working just the way we expected it to work. And withdraw 0.7, yes, withdraw 0.7 ton. Perfect. So these commands are working just well. And the last thing we are going to do is we're just going to go to documentation of the web applications in Telegram, and we will read a little bit of the parameters that are brought to us by this SDK. So we have this init data and init data unsafe. So this is for actually when we want to send some raw data when we initiate the web app. So we could check the version of the bot API available in the user's Telegram app. We could detect the platform, just like we said. We could adjust the color scheme. We could do theme parameters. So certain theme settings, and they're actually provided, like options are provided by Telegram documentation for theme params. We could check if it's expanded. We could set the viewport height. And the thing I was heading to is the send data. Yes, this one. Let's read it. So a method is used to send data to the bot. When this command is called, a service message is sent to the bot containing the data of the length. So the important thing is that after you're running this command, a message is sent into your Telegram. So basically, once you run this function send data, you are actually sending a message that should be handled by your backend bot that we just created. And it would look like this, how you handle it. So you would need to also import the message. The message is imported from Telegraph filters. And this message, so basically you filter this type of message. You could do here like a sticker or just a message, but you want to filter web app data. And here you will receive the data that was actually sent from your web application. But important to know that this is made only for closing. So once you run this method, the web app is closed. So yes, you can of course see the message type here. And here you do web app. And this is pretty much it. We've learned so many things today. We actually figured out how to use one of the best ways to deliver your app to the masses, because Ton is about mass adoption, and this is important for you to master your mind around how you're building your apps so they would be integrated into the carrier. So if if Telegram is the carrier of all these masses of people, and Ton is actually the blockchain that we are very much loving, and Ton is so ready for this amount of people, why don't you build your apps and actually bring the scalability ready technology into the place where this amount of users are already waiting for your products? And I'm super happy that you actually now are equipped for that. And I hope that everything was clear for you, that whatever you learned is going to help you building your product, and see you in next chapters. Thank you.